Nostalgia, a sentimental longing or wistful affection for a period in the past. It often involves a bittersweet mix of joy from reliving a fond memory and a slight sadness or yearning because that moment is gone forever. Nostalgia is poisoning MMA fans, and it is poisoning the MMA GOAT debate. When you ask a casual UFC fan, who's the GOAT of MMA, bro? Who do you think's the number one UFC fighter of all time? They're going to come out with one of three answers. They're either going to say Jon Jones, Demetrious Johnson, or GSP. And I'm here to say that Alexander Volkanovski, Islam Makhachev, Israel Adesanya, and Alex Pereira all have better arguments of being the GOAT of MMA than those three combined. Jon Jones has been widely discredited from the GOAT discussion for his use of steroids. People also don't like the character of Jon Jones. He's out here beating his wife up, going on all sorts of drunken escapades. People don't like Jon Jones that much. Now, whilst Jon Jones is a characteristic piece of shit, DJ and GSP are still widely regarded as some of the greatest UFC fighters of all time. And for good reason. These guys have a multitude of title defenses. I think Demetrious Johnson had like 11. But can you name two of them? Can you name two? If you sit down right now and you think as hard as you can you name even one single Demetrious Johnson title defense? You can't, because this guy was fighting gas station workers and supermarket checkout operators in his prime. There were not enough skillful 125-pound fighters at the time of Demetrious Johnson's reign for him to create a legacy that would last the test of time. There are many fighters he's fought that simply wouldn't have even made it into the UFC had they been fighting today. The level of competition that current UFC fighters are facing is extraordinarily high, and it is extremely higher than the past. And I think we as MMA fans need to start rating modern legacy higher than the nostalgic moments that we see of the past. Might I add, most UFC fans who are creating this false narrative that DJ's the GOAT, bro. DJ's the GOAT, bro. Did you see that flying arm, bro? Oh my God, there's never been anybody like him. He's a marauder. Those guys are getting this information and they are formulating their opinions based on 5 to 10 second instant gratification fucking Instagram reels and TikTok edits they are seeing as they're doom scrolling their summer away instead of going outside and hanging out with their mates. This is the state of MMA, and it's the state of MMA media. We are being blinded by the past. I'm not discrediting the greatness of GSP. I'm not even discrediting the greatness of Jon Jones, because the reality is he popped, but he only popped for a certain amount of fights. There were about 6 or 7 title defenses that he had where he was completely clean. I think it was only the DC fight where he had the old picograms. There are a lot of legacy fights in his career that are legitimate wins, that are not tainted by the blood tests and by the failed USADA tests. But he did fail, and it does taint his legacy. I'm still not discrediting his greatness. I'm still not discrediting the run that Demetrious Johnson went on and the skillfulness that he had. I still think he can mix it up, even today at 40 years old, with some of the best flyweights out there. Do I think he can be a champ? No, but that's a different conversation. My point is, people are getting blinded by nostalgia because of these gooner UFC edits they be seeing of Demetrious Johnson and of GSP when they weren't even a fucking spermatogonia in their dad's nutsack. They weren't even a fucking spermatogonia in their dad's nutsack when these fighters were fighting, and they're saying that these guys are the best of all time when we are witnessing some of the most goated UFC runs ever right now, and we're still in the past harping on about Demetrious Johnson beating a taxi driver back in the day. We have Islam Makhachev on a fucking 16-fight win streak against some of the best. He's beaten Charles Oliveira, Dustin Poirier, even Renato Moicano is a good win looking back, how quickly he did that. He went up a division and beat Jack Della Maddalena. He's fighting against Ian Gary. He's defending his second belt. We are witnessing a GOAT of MMA fighting right now. We are witnessing Alexander Volkanovski at 38 years old go on a second run in the featherweight division. There are GOATed UFC fighters right now, and people do not recognize it because they are blinded by nostalgia. They are blinded by the past. They weren't even around when these guys were fighting. They have been captured and they have been hooked by the false sense of nostalgia that these edits, that these narratives have created. And they are overrating the legacy of these fighters from the past. The level of skill in MMA today is at such a high level that if you took the top 15 from just 5 or 6 years ago in some of these divisions, and they wouldn't be able to hang with the current contenders of today. People say Anderson Silva is the middleweight GOAT. When you look at Anderson Silva in his prime, he was a great fighter. He had some incredible moments. He was a pioneer of the sport. Failed a drug test, by the way. Oh, he's not Jon Jones? It doesn't matter. It's all good. Failed a drug test, by the way. But in any case, he had a legendary run and was truly one of the most pivotal strikers in combat sports history. He would get destroyed by Reina de Ridder. Brendan Allen would TKO Anderson Silva within 20 seconds. Robert Whittaker would put an absolute beatdown on him. The UFC fighters of today have progressed at such a rate that their skill, their nutrition, their training absolutely dwarfs that of the fighters of yesterday. And for this reason, when guys go on legendary runs like Islam Makhachev, like Alexander Volkanovski, like Kamaru Usman and Israel Adesanya in the past, when guys go on these legendary runs where they defend the belt 6 to 8 times in the case of Israel Adesanya and Kamaru Usman. I think Adesanya had like 7 title fight wins. Kamaru had like 6. Volk's got 5 or 6. These guys are absolutely tearing through their divisions and they're lapping the divisions against top contenders that are extremely, extremely skillful. And we're too close to the frame to see the entire picture. When we look back in the past, we are blinded by nostalgia. When we look back on the grainy footage we have of GSP, of Jon Jones, of Anderson Silva, of Khabib even, of Mighty Mouse, these guys are great, but the level of competition that they're facing is not to that of the level of competition that the current UFC fighters and the current champions are facing right now. So we need to stop with this whole GOAT debate. I'm going to drop a new tier list for the UFC GOATs tomorrow or the day after, and it's going to break down why Khabib, why DJ, why even Jon Jones are not to the caliber of our current modern UFC fighters. There is a past bias, there is a nostalgia bias that is blinding people to the fact that we have absolute legends and GOATs in the sport right now. Do you know how hard it is for Volkanovski to beat the contenders he's beaten and even keep doing it at the age he is at today? When you compare this with the guys that Demetrious Johnson was fighting, the guys that even GSP was fighting, the name and the caliber of athlete that the guys in the past were facing is not the same as today. Every single top 5 fighter in every single division, you take them back 10 years and they would be a dominant champion. That's how fast this sport is moving, growing and evolving. It's only getting bigger. I train recreationally. I train for fun. I know people younger than me who are 16, 17 years old getting into the sport and trying to make a career out of it because of how popular it's become. There are true prodigies coming out of the sport and true athletes, not fucking cab drivers and part-time fighters like the guys of the past were beating. Demetrious Johnson, GSP, these guys were all training full-time and they were defending their belts against guys that were of a lesser caliber. They were defending the belt against lesser competition. We need to start valuing our modern champions and the modern legacy that they are creating. One title defense in today is worth 3 of yesterday when you consider the caliber of athlete that is competing today and the level of nutrition and the level of training and the level of understanding of mixed martial arts that is held by coaches, by staff, by team members. And quite frankly, it's a disgrace that we rank guys of the past higher than guys of today. We need to start respecting current legends, current GOATs, like Volkanovski, like Islam. It's not cool to do so. It sounds like you're a casual, but the truth is, the people that rate the guys of the past higher than they truly are They're the real casuals, and they need sorting out. Stop consuming UFC content by scrolling mindlessly on TikTok and formulate an actual opinion by watching fights, analyzing fights, and breaking them down. And you can do that by subscribing to my YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Much love. I'll see you boys later.